an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Killing Eve, Season 1, Episode 4. Sorry, baby. In this episode, so Eve is recovering from a horrific loss, and nobody seems to know anything about this person that meant a lot to her. And it seems that her husband thinks that maybe she was having an affair still. And I feel for him, man. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha. So you may have noticed that I left out like one of the crucial plot issues from my intro. But the fact is, whenever there is a character who their partner thinks is cheating when they are not cheating, it breaks my heart a little bit. And I always get sort of distracted by that. Also, guys, obviously, I have to thank Melanie for this episode because Melanie had commissioned this and a later episode both to cover Witcher. She was covering, I think, the third book. And she came to realize, because she was commissioning that very steadily and she was commissioning Gravity Falls. And she realized, like, with the holidays coming and some changes going on at work, she was really only going to be able to continue to consistently commission one series. She chose Gravity Falls, but she had already done the first two Witcher. And she got in touch with me and was like, look, you can either just take that time off and consider it a donation or use those slots towards something else that you want to cover. And I was very tempted to take the time off, but I didn't have any more commissions for Killing Eve. And it was getting to the point that if I didn't soon, it was going to have to be a canceled show. And I simply could not accept that. So I decided to use both the slots that Melanie donated, essentially, towards Killing Eve. So thank you, Melanie, for keeping the show going. I have had one person since the last episode commission one more of Killing Eve. But beyond that, and that episode isn't until March, I don't think. Beyond that, I don't have any more of this show commissioned. So again, plea to anybody listening who wants more of this, please consider just grabbing one episode. As long as we can keep this thing like puttering along. I just really don't. This is a show that has a feel to it and a storyline to it that just seems so unfamiliar and totally different to me. And I will be so sad if this one just goes away. But yeah, thank you so much to Melanie for letting me choose something. And I'm really excited to be able to continue this because this episode is bananas, guys. So first of all, I want to mention that I've been watching the show on Hulu. And anytime that I'm covering a show that I have to watch from Hulu, I get really frustrated because I like to play episodes while I'm recording on them, just in case I need to confirm what a line was or something happening in the scene. I can watch it and in real time be like, oh, no. Sorry, he was standing on the left side of the room. Whatever. Hulu has been really bad with their online interface. They have just been pausing at random times. They will stop showing their subtitles at random times. It's really weird. Well, today I went to watch this to open it before recording this. And it turns out that Hulu now has like an app from that you can like download to your computer rather than playing it from your browser, which I think is pretty awesome. And fingers crossed that this will work better from here on out. So this episode, there is just, it starts off with the funeral, which I am surprised by in a way. I don't even like saying surprised, really. I mean, of course there's going to be a funeral scene, right? But I guess I thought we were going to have the aftermath of Eve in the nightclub and having to explain what happened and all of this stuff. And instead we jump ahead and find out that like they completely lied about his cause of death and everything. And I am just I don't even want to say I'm mad about it, because that makes it sound like I take a firmer stance in thinking that it was the wrong thing to do. And I don't. I believe that it makes sense why they had to lie about his cause of death. But it feels like disrespectful somehow to just make it like, oh yeah, he was just killed by some fucking random, and just fate can be tricksy that way. Instead of like, he died in service to a country, really, that he cared about. You know, he died like honorably, and he's not really getting the respect that he deserves from that, you know? And that's part of the thing, I guess, when you are a spy, or if you are just somebody who is, you know, working undercover in any way, you have to come to terms with the fact that if anything should happen to you, nobody will really know. And if you succeed and do something really amazing, nobody will know about that either. You have to be able to set your ego aside and be willing to go without credit or recognition in any way, which is part of the reason why I would be a terrible, terrible spy. So she's sitting in the church, and this first scene is just really something, because she is sitting there like there's a cloud over her head. She's not crying. She's just enraged. And I fucking related to this so hard, y'all. Like, because this is how I am. I don't like to cry in front of people. I'll do it on the podcast. At this point, I've gotten comfortable enough with this that I'm just like, yeah, all right, y'all know. But I just really have a hard time with strangers being emotional, and this not crying and substituting it with anger is just, I get it, you know. And her husband like tries to hold her hand at one point to be supportive, and she kind of does this like, please, and like gives him his hand back, for lack of a better way of saying it. And man, that felt really tough to watch. Like, it's just, he wants to be there for her so bad, and he just can't, he doesn't know how to do it. You know, she is going through something that she can't really tell him the whole truth about. And it just feels like there is this growing gulf between the two of them. And then by the end of the episode, when she yells at him, guys, it is brutal. Brutal isn't even the word. I mean, whoever wrote this script knows what it is to like get into this kind of fight. What is the name of that show that everybody's been memeing with Adam Driver, where they're fighting? Is it just called like The Marriage or something like that? I have not seen that show or that movie, I guess. But there is a feeling too, because I have heard nothing but how excellent it is, how Adam Driver will likely be nominated for an Oscar, and how the fight at the end, although it's made fun of in memes sometimes, is such a huge payoff to a growing tension throughout the movie that it doesn't feel ridiculous in the moment at all. It's absolutely compelling. And I feel like that is all an indication that the script is written by somebody who has been through what they are writing about, that understands the emotional like tearing apart that happens when a marriage starts to just implode. And as somebody who has personally gone through that, it is one of the most absolutely devastating things to experience, because inevitably the people who are in this marriage thought this was going to work. That's why they got married. And as they begin to come to terms with the fact that, like, not only is the person they married not necessarily who they thought, but they realize they themselves are not necessarily who they thought. And both of them have such resentments that can't quite be got past anymore. As much as you may be able to pinpoint them and realize, oh, here's my problem, I have resentment because of this, knowing what it is doesn't magically fix that you have this issue. Even though we like to think, oh, acknowledging it is the first step. Yeah, but sometimes like that's the only step you can take, and you can't quite heal from that the way that you want to. Sometimes too much damage has been done. And this episode for me really pointed to how broken things have clearly been between the two of them, and they're only just getting to a point that they have to face it. It is really easy when things are continuing on automatic and you are, just living your life as a routine. It is easy to ignore things that are red flags or just kind of not going quite as well as you wished. There is nothing quite like a huge life change to make everything shift very suddenly. And I was having some problems with Brendan, and then my father died. And it was like, I still can't rationally put my father died and it made me realize XYZ, which was what led to me pulling away from my husband. I still can't quite figure out why my father's death was the thing, but it made everything feel so much more obvious somehow. Oh yeah, this isn't working. We are not supposed to be together. And followed up immediately about a month later by my grandmother dying. And I was the closest to my mom, my dad, and my grandma. These are like the three main forces in my life. And 2 of 3 are dead within the same 1 month span. It broke apart things that had cracks in them already. And that's what's happening here is Eve is like having this marriage with its pieces starting to show, the cracks beginning to form, and the death of her friend busts it all the way open, puts too much pressure on it, and the cracks can't hold anymore. And this scene in the church where this fucking guy, whose name I am already forgetting, and I need to... Frank, right? Frank is up here giving the eulogy. And we find out later, Frank was the fucking mole. So she is already angry because Frank doesn't know anything about... Oh my God. I was going to call him Bob. What is it, guys? Help me out. Guy who died. Somebody in the comments. Somebody. Help. Bill. Thank you, Devin. Oh, Jesus Christ. He doesn't know anything about Bill. I don't know why he's the one that's chosen to give the eulogy. I don't... who decided this? Unless maybe she was asked to do it and she turned it down. Because I can understand, just being like, I am not doing that. That I will, completely lose my shit and dissolve in front of, a crowd of people. But when we find out that Frank is, a fucking... the one that led to Bill's death, knowing that he was the one who gave the eulogy at Bill's funeral, I really don't know how this man sleeps at night. This is the kind of thing that genuinely, it's just so fucking gross in so many ways. I am just, I hate him so much. And it looks like they have managed to save him by the end of this episode, and I don't care. I don't want him saved. Fuck that guy. I hate him. Fuck him. Kai says, I was kind of surprised you hadn't picked up on Frank's weirdness in the previous episodes. I just thought Frank was a fucking weirdo. I didn't even I thought that because he's sort of covering for Villanelle by being like, oh yeah, the CCTV wasn't actually there. I just said that it was there so that you would drop this thing. It's easy to be like, oh yeah, he's a total traitor. But honestly, flat out traitors are a lot rarer in life than people who are just petty little bitches. So I just thought Frank was yet another petty little bitch who didn't like the fact that Eve was on the right track and showing him up and, sort of trying to behave as if she were above her station, and he was trying to put her in a place in a really ineffective and counterproductive way. Because if there's anything that I have learned, even though it continues to shock me still, despite knowing it now, I have learned that people are uninterested in what is good for us all if it means that they get to fuck over somebody in particular that they don't like. I still don't really get that, having your priorities that out of whack. But at this age, I have grown to understand that that is very, very common. So as much as I can totally see somebody else watching this and being like, oh, he's obviously the fucking traitor. Like, Frank is the one being shady and like, if they got it, I understand how they'd reach that conclusion, but I've gotten to like this point where grand conspiracies tend to be less believable to me than individual shortcomings of personality. Kai says they did a great job setting Bill's initial attitude towards Eve's work so that viewers also think Frank is just another asshole. That's a good point, Kai. I didn't really think about the fact that Bill is sort of setting the tone in that regard as well. Because Frank is really the first one that you see being a dick, and that, you know, the two of them wind up getting fired and all of this. But then when it's followed up with Bill being a douchebag, and, you know, he does wind up acknowledging that he's being a douchebag and sort of apologizing for it. But, you know, nevertheless, I think you're right that probably helped throw me off the scent a little bit, because this is just sort of what happens, especially if you are a woman. So anyway, she is listening to this eulogy that is not at all correct. And she winds up getting up and leaving and storming out in the middle of this. And there's a really interesting moment where she's sitting behind this woman, who I think is Bill's partner, his wife, right? Holding their baby, and the baby starts crying. And that seems to be really what sets Eve off. And she like goes storming out because for some reason this just pushes her over the edge, is realizing that this child was left with no father. And when she goes outside, Elena comes out with her, and she says something about how probably people are going to start thinking we were having an affair. And Elena is just like, yeah, they think that already. It's too late for that. But yeah, I like the two of them a lot. And I like Elena saying, I'll be fine for 2 years and then I'll have a complete breakdown about this, which, that seems like a thing that people do. I like that as well. And this is when she says nobody is allowed to know the truth. And he was mugged in a club at 61. What a hero. She's just really like the fact that this is how they're treating this story just makes her very enraged, understandably. I would also like to say, and this is just an aside that's not really pertinent necessarily, but the woman who's playing Elena, let's see, what is her name? Kirby Howell-Baptiste. I really appreciate that this show is letting her wear her natural hair, because there are so many shows that just don't let Black women wear their natural hair and insist on it either being like, there being a wig or like relaxed or flat ironed, or done up in something that's otherwise just like sort of respectable and contained in this way that's like, you know, white people friendly. And I really like the fact that Elena is able to sort of just like let her hair be and just wears a headband and that's it. I just like that. So I just wanted to mention it. So we then go to Villanelle's apartment, and it turns out that it is her handler's birthday, and she has gotten him a huge, amazing wedding cake style birthday cake. Guys, this cake is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I am certain that it is all fake. I'm certain that it's just like fondant over, you know, what do you call it? Foam and whatnot. But wow. And there's like a clump of frosting that he digs his finger into. And I can practically guarantee that that is like the only part of that cake that's real. But the fact that he digs his fucking finger into that amazing cake just makes you want to slap his face. And she comes through the door and she is fucking wearing an identical outfit and even has a fake beard on. And she's like doing a dance and singing happy birthday, even though she knows he's here because she done killed a guy she wasn't supposed to kill after telling him, I will not be naughty. I promise to not be naughty. I love the fact that she is so good at pretending to be sincere. When you, like, if we didn't know, when she says, when she first of all fakes her surprise at him being like, this person is in town. And then when he begs her to not be naughty, the way that she conveys like shock and contrition. Oh my God, she's fucking really good. So yeah, she does this whole thing with like wanting him to lift her and dance around with him. And he is just not interested in fucking playing with her. And then she says, I wanted to do something nice for your birthday. And then he says, it's not my birthday, which, guys, I fucking nearly died. It's not even his birthday. She's just being extra to distract him and annoy him because this is just fucking... I swear, I loved this so much, guys. I swear to God, I was fucking cracking up. So, yeah, this whole conversation boils down to, you have not done what you promised us to do, which is keep a low profile, complete your assignments the way you are told, and have a little bit of fucking restraint and self-control. And because of that, you are going to be sent to complete your next mission with your brothers and sisters. She has bought him, by the way, a set of headphones, which he says are very cool, and I got very suspicious about. I wouldn't put it past her to have something built into those fucking headphones that like causes him to go deaf or something. I mean, I swear to God, nothing is too diabolical for her. So he points out to her that he knows about the fact that she used the name Eve Pilastri, that, you know, I said that this guy was off limits. I don't trust him. Don't trust you anymore after what you did with him. And as he's leaving, he finally opens the last present that she gives him. And he pulls out this little strange sort of like, I don't even know what it is. It looks almost like a kangaroo because it's got this weird tail. And he's smiling at it and she smiles at him and she says, for your daughter. And you just see his face like fucking drop. And she gives him this look and says, did you think I don't know anything? And he puts it away and just hides this like little bracelet that is around his wrist that I think he blames for her having figured this out. I don't know that's what it was. I think it'd probably be something that she could have found out through other means. But it is very, very clear, the implication here. She is just like, yeah, I know you have a kid. I could probably figure out where you lived. I could probably do whatever I want. So, you know, maybe don't be a huge dick to me because who knows what could happen. And it is cold-blooded, y'all. Like, fuck me up. Fuck me right up. I really, really like this moment a lot. So then we go to her arriving in England. And of course, my initial thought is that she is here for Eve. But it turns out that they are actually here for Frank because he is the weak link now that they need to get rid of. And she's getting off the train and she is met by some dude who is supposed to, like, he's holding up a sign for like a bird watching tour. And this guy is the actual worst. I do not understand how the two of them apparently like went through the same training program because they could not have more different approaches to this work. I mean, granted, what's going on with Villanelle is obviously a result of her being like a psychopath. You know, she is clearly enjoying killing people a little bit more than she really should. That is not something that you can teach. That is something that I think a person is like born with. However, this guy has like no integrity regarding his work. And that's surprising to me. One would really think that it would be like drilled into everyone to the same degree that you need to complete things properly. And evidently not, because he is 100% willing, as we see later, to lie about having killed Frank. He like was ready to just let this guy get away and behave as if he had done what he was asked to do. And I honestly don't know what would have happened if he had managed to convince them all that he had succeeded. I don't know what, like, would Frank have ever turned up again? Would he have managed to get away and blow this guy's spot up? And like, really, when it comes right down to it, what I'm asking is, would this guy have survived, this assassin whose name I'm forgetting? Because I would think that it would come out pretty quickly that Frank isn't actually dead. So the fact that he is willing to make this claim, I guess, points to him being like pretty sure that they will take his word for it, and that Frank will definitely go into hiding, go underground, and that nobody will ever find out that he is lying and that he never actually killed this guy. Which, like, that's a big assumption to make. That's a lot of trust and faith, not only in what you think Frank is going to do, but that your company that you work for, whatever they're called, isn't going to be checking up on anything, or at least, even if they did take your word for it and they do believe that he's actually dead, you don't think that they're going to accidentally run across anything that's going to point to the fact that you were lying. Like, these are people who clearly have a pretty big network, and you don't think that they're going to like see on facial recognition scanning that Frank was at the airport later that day, or wherever the fuck that he decides to go. You don't think they're going to register that his cell phone is still moving around, or that his car is like being pinged at tolls, anything like that. I just feel like this guy's carelessness is really, it's amazing that he gets away with as much as he does. His name is Diego, right? I think his name is Diego. So anyway, yeah, this guy is a disaster. And then there is this other girl named Nadia, who is apparently Eve's ex. And she sees Eve and immediately, like, she's sitting in the back seat. She's sitting in the front. She launches herself at Eve, either way, and is fully prepared to kill her. We don't know what wound up happening with the two of them. Like, all we know is that Eve clearly betrayed Nadia in some way. And as far as Nadia is concerned, Eve never paid for it. She somehow vanished into the aether, or was so like invaluable to the team that they are all employed by that it was like not allowed for her to take out her retribution. And there is something that Diego says at one point, which is that he was told that not everybody was necessary to this mission, that somebody could like not make it out and that they would be okay with that. So that's the way that he sort of tries to get the both of them in line, is by insinuating that like, I could kill either one of you at any point and nobody's going to be mad about it. But, you know, Nadia could have killed Villanelle, and if that were true, Diego, then it would have been fine. So just let her. Then you would be in a better place as well, probably, guy. Oh, sorry. Kai says I called Villanelle Eve. Sorry, I keep doing that. Yeah, that'll happen. I keep doing that. I was doing that with something else recently too. I kept calling Josh Greg in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, I think. Anya says Marcy. No, that is, I genuinely get the name wrong. But with Josh and Greg, I just like will accidentally intermix them. There are things that are like mistakes because they're slips of the tongue. And then there are things where I'm genuinely bad at certain character names. And Carly and Marcy are just so close that I just, for some reason, I can't get the two of them separated in my brain. So, okay, let's talk about this fucking, because she's at home with her husband, curled up on the couch. He has made dinner and she doesn't really want to eat anything. He doesn't know what to say to her. Like, he is trying to talk to her and she's just staring at him and says, what? And he is really honestly doing the best that he can as far as I can see. Like, he says, I'm sorry to bring this up now, but you're not being honest with me. And he presses that he knows Bill didn't die because when he says, you're not being honest with me about Bill, she thinks he means you are having an affair with Bill. But then he says, how did he die? And she realizes that he knows a little bit more than she thought. And she immediately dives back into the couch cushions. And he's like, I want you out of this. If you value your life, our life, you will. He's doing the exact thing I said last week, which is if I were with somebody and I found out that a fucking psychopath, serial killer, assassin, professional who was like fucking highly trained went and used their name right before they murdered somebody, I would absolutely demand that they drop what they were doing or I would leave. No question. Absolutely. Losing somebody that you love and knowing that they like walked into it willingly is just, that is the kind of thing that I would just never be able to forgive them for. You know, that for me is, that's it. You value your work more than us, and I don't. I value us more, and our priorities are clearly not aligned with one another, and this is not going to work out. That's it. And she just jumps up and says, please don't tell me that you care about me. We all know you care about me. Sometimes I think it's all you have. Kids. Like, honestly, I can't think of anything more fucking cutting. That is unbelievably brutal. And she seems to know that it is. Like, he starts to tell her, well, she starts to kind of like, I won't say even apologize. He interrupts and it's like, you don't have to apologize. And I'm like, I'm not sure that's what she was going to do. She might have been about to try and like backpedal a little bit, but I have a hard time seeing her really apologizing for that. And then he says, oh, and your suitcase came back from Berlin. It was on the doorstep. And this is when we have the moment of her going through stuff and he just kind of leaves her. Now, it could be taken either way. It could be taken as he leaves her alone because he realizes that she's lashing out because she's grieving and that this isn't exactly about him. It could be that she hurt him so bad that he's just like, all right, you know what? Do what you need to do. And I guess I'm just not going to be like part of this anymore. I'm not totally sure what he's thinking in that moment, but I just felt really bad for him, whatever is going on. So I'm not going to get too much into the clashes of personality in the Van O assassins because I mean, it's pretty much a continual power struggle between Villanelle and Diego, because Diego is bad at his job, does not take it seriously, but he takes himself very seriously. And he is also obviously involved with Nadia and being really, really gross about it. And it is super clear Nadia is not into him, but that this is just like the relationship of convenience and abuse and control in some way. It's not clear what happened there, but like he's calling her pumpkin and she looks really uncomfortable. And he looks very displeased at the fact that she is not reacting the way he wants her to. And he calls her that. It is just, there is a lot of messy drama and baggage and ugliness going on. But the biggest thing that we find out is that they are here to kill Frank, because they start off saying, we are here to kill a member of the British intelligence services. And when Nadia says that to Eve, Eve gets a look on her face because it seems clear that she thinks it's going to be, or she says that to Villanelle, that it's going, and Villanelle thinks it's going to be Eve. And Villanelle looks worried, because I don't know what she would have done if it had been Eve, if she would have been willing to kill her because orders told her to, or if she would have tried to stop it from happening somehow. And I kind of thought what was going to happen was that Villanelle, it was going to, because at this point, I still don't know it's Frank, right? So I'm watching thinking, is she going to kill both of these other assassins in order to protect Eve? Because I have no illusions about, eventually, I think Villanelle wants to kill Eve, but she wants to do it herself. She wants to do it her way, and she wants to do it for her own reasons. And that seems like it doesn't line up at all with being told by this, faceless conglomerate of people. But it turns out it doesn't even have to be Eve. And Villanelle is still 100% willing to kill both of these people anyway, which honestly, I'm here for that. That's fine. You know what? Go ahead. So we bounce back from the van to Eve opening her suitcase. And it's clear that she thinks for a second that somebody sent her the wrong one, because it's not like any clothing that she recognizes. Everything in this suitcase is designer expense, like sweaters and suits and things that cost like thousands of dollars, like obscenely expensive. She checks the tag on the suitcase to just make sure that this is really hers. And it is. It has her name and her address and everything on it. And she's going through it all, and it's just like, what the fuck? And all of the clothing has like little bows tied around it as well. It's clearly intended to be gifts. Like, this is gorgeous stuff. And then eventually she comes across a note card that just says, "Sorry, baby." And you can see it suddenly click for her. And it's inside of a box of La Villanelle Eau de Parfum, which is I thought that this was the poison perfume that was actually like the thing that, I thought that this was like Villanelle attempting to kill her in her own way, and that she was going to spray this and take a whiff and die, or at least become like asphyxiated until her husband rushed in to save her at the last second or something. But she doesn't actually spray it. She's just like staring at this bottle, and then she sees the card off to the side. And when she reads the "Sorry, baby," you can see it, like she looks like she is physically sick, and she drops the box and backs away from everything. And I feel so bad for Nico, because he comes in at this moment to try and talk to her again, and she screams at him to get out. And of course, there's no way for him to take that other than to think that she is just like still enraged at him. But it's because she's so fucking flipped about this. Like, it's one thing for them to use her name. It's another thing for them to have been in possession of all of her own property and know where she lives at this point. So when she goes and talks to Elena about it all, she says something about how like there's about $5,000 worth of clothes in there. Amazing clothes, all my size. And I can't help but like wonder, she's handing it all over. She's got the suitcase wrapped in plastic so that it can be looked at by forensics. But I can't help but wonder if when forensics is done with this, she is going to like take those clothes back and try them on and be like, actually, I really like this cardigan, so I think I'm going to keep this. Because, guys, I would. Like, I feel like I kind of would. I would be super paranoid about it, so I would have to have forensics look at it first. But if they were able to be like, yeah, there's no poison in the fibers, there's no secret hidden needles that are going to suddenly jab you, and if they were able to guarantee it, and it was like a $2,000 cardigan, I might just be like, yeah, it's fine. I'll take this. Thanks. I don't know. So this is when they begin to follow the money and try and figure out who the mole is. And this dude that works with them, who's the young white guy again? What is his name? I feel like he was called something sort of boring, like Ron or something, but I might be wrong about that. But he is Benny. Is that it, Agnes? That guy was really annoying me. Oh, you're talking about Diego. Yeah. Yeah, Benny, that seems sufficiently boring. He has tracked all of this money back to this one account number, and it is a British account number that is receiving 3 payments a year for the exact same amount. And we find out that the money goes from there to St. Henry's prep school in Sussex. And Eve had just had a Kenny. Now, Kai is saying Kenny. Guys, I don't know. You guys are going to have to hash this out amongst yourselves. I'm looking at the IMDb to try and find his name. Oh, yeah, I guess it is Kenny. Yeah, you're right. It is Kenny. He's listed right above Nico. Because, yeah, I didn't think he was going to be that high up on the list in the episode, so I was looking lower down and I couldn't find him. But, yeah, Eve has had a conversation with Frank where he was talking about wanting to send his kids to this school and not being able to afford it and kind of like, soul searching about what he was going to do. And she recognizes the name of the school that he was talking about. And immediately she goes and meets up with her boss and tells her about, this is my suspicion of what's going on here. And I mean, I really enjoy how quickly she puts this together. I just really didn't expect it to be this obvious, but I think sometimes I get caught up in like how underhanded I think people are going to be about a thing. And I forget that a lot of folks just rely, when they're trying to keep a secret, they rely on the fact that nobody is looking at them in the first place. So it's not necessarily like I am going to make it so that nobody, when they find this, is able to trace it back to me. It's not that. It's way more about I am going to be so cozy and certain nobody would ever even think it was me. But, it'll take some steps for them to find me if they do figure it out. But I really don't think they're ever going to, and I'm just not going to worry. And that seems to be where Frank is at. Or alternatively, whoever Frank is working with isn't worried about protecting him too much. They might have been like, if they figure it out, they figure it out. I'm not really that worried about losing this guy because we kind of got what we need. Who knows? They might not be that worried about preserving this link. So yeah, she is talking about Frank is drunk. I had to put him in a cab at like 8:00. And I love Carolyn throughout the scene talking about these sausages because they're in a sausage shop. He was very emotional, telling me the pressure he was under to send his kids to private school, yada, yada, yada. So then we go to outside of Frank's home and we have this, like, again, confrontational moment between Diego and Villanelle where he's talking about, like, the guns and the scopes and that there was some politician that I was meant to take out with this and he's definitely dead. So, yes, thank you, sweetie, as he takes it out of her hand. And I'm just like, God, you are the worst. I will also want to mention, like, small details like this I really appreciate. We see him put the scope back into the case that it came out of. And it's one of those, like, cases that has the foam cutouts for putting each individual part of the gun in a very protected, stable little slot that's made especially for that piece. And he puts it into the little slot and we see how, like, dirty and yellowed and old the foam looks in the case. Like, I like details like that because these are not going to be weapons that they just purchased. They're going to have, like, their old reliables that they use for jobs over and over again. And just little bits of attention paid to things like that, where the foam is like worn away and discolored and just looks kind of grimy right around the actual opening of the compartment, because his fingers have touched it over and over again as he reaches and pulls things out. And also kind of insinuates that maybe he's not like the cleanest guy who pays the most attention to his stuff also. So yeah, we have this, guys, this tension is absolutely unbelievable. So we go to, what is the name of the town? I think it's Beltham? Bletchem. And they go to Frank's house, and his mother is the one who answers the door, and she says that he isn't here. Now, I don't, because, Villanelle at one point is like, it's really strange that he's not here, considering that his car is here. And his mother just sort of like laughs this off and doesn't really respond. So I believe we're meant to think that Frank is actually here. But I don't know how he knew to hide from them. Like, did he see the van pull up and immediately was like, oh, I don't like this at all. I don't recognize this van. I don't know what they're doing here. We have this, Diego and Villanelle and Nadia, they split up. So Villanelle is like approaching the house with Nadia, and there's a moment that's kind of strange where Villanelle like gets really close to Nadia's face, and Nadia pulls away from her. As Villanelle walks away, she like clutches at her wrist, almost like there's some sort of like scar there, or something that happened to the two of them, or something that happened between the two of them. And she got injured there, and there was like this unconscious touching. I don't know what that meant, but Anya says, I thought he was really gone for milk or whatever, but caught on when his mom calls him. So his car was still there because he like had walked to like the corner shop for milk or something. That would make sense. It's a very small village, it looks like, so I could see that. It's so pretty, by the way. Ugh, I love it. But yeah, this whole scene with Villanelle, putting on a British accent and trying to behave as if she is like a friend from work and that this is all very casual. It is just extremely tense and hard to watch. And I got extremely worried about his poor mom being caught in the crossfire. If I'm honest, though, now I don't even remember what wound up happening to his mom. Did they just bail? I think his mother winds up okay, right? Meanwhile, as they are heading up to, as Eve and Elena are heading up to Bletchem, they're talking about Carolyn and the fact that she's essentially like a fucking James Bond. She's like a total superstar. And Elena is low-key fangirling her balls off about working for this woman. So yeah, she stopped like the sale of plutonium on the international black market. Apparently she saved the world 8 more times since then. And Eve says, you want to save the world? Are you like a romantic underneath everything? And then she says, talk about romance. Kenny's about to explode. And Elena says, poor guy, I know it's going to happen too. What? Is Elena saying that she's going to eventually sleep with Kenny and she like knows that that's... I didn't feel any chemistry between them at all. Is that just me? I didn't even like sense that a little bit. I was taken very aback by this. So yeah, we go to Villanelle eating this fucking cake that got microwaved. I swear to God, you guys, this is so funny to me. So I'm going to jump ahead to when they decide to leave, and then they see the car that goes peeling out, and they realize that this guy has caught on and is bailing. And, Anya says, I think Villanelle was stopping Nadia from killing the mom. Interesting. And Kai says, when I was watching this, I low-key thought the mom would whip out a gun and shoot the girls. That would have been pretty dope. But yeah, she did not strike me as that type of lady, which would have made it fun. But yeah, this doesn't feel like Kingsman. And as far as Villanelle stopping Nadia, I kind of want to go back and like rewatch that scene now and see if I get that. But this like chase is really amazing. I love Diego like trying to get the gun into the front seat and accidentally knocking Villanelle in the head with the butt of the gun because he's just not being very careful. And he doesn't apologize, but he gives her a nervous look because he realizes that he done fucked up, and yet he's just still too proud to like actually say I'm sorry. And as this like is getting started with them two, Elena and Eve are pulling up to the house and then get an update from Kenny that like, oh yeah, so he's not home anymore. We're seeing him like, not only is he leaving, but he is really going fast. Something is clearly going on. So the two of them begin to pursue him and try and get in touch with him on his phone and convince him to sort of turn himself in, I guess, because they aren't aware yet that he is being chased. They think that he's like fleeing because he's been found out. Meanwhile, Nadia is standing up through the skylight with this fucking rifle, like just blowing the shit out of the car. And all of these spent shell casings are hitting Villanelle in the head as she's driving. And she looks very unappreciative of this. And Diego is back there clapping and applauding and calling, like saying like, oh, good, Pumpkin. Very, very good. Except that she didn't actually kill the guy. So you're just applauding the action moviness of it all. You're not applauding her doing her job well and being like slick about it. You're just excited like a little boy over a big gun shooting. Like, get a fucking grip, dude. He's the worst. And I kind of like the fact that even though Nadia is sort of like pumped throughout, obviously, because it's her idea to go up through the fucking skylight and try and shoot this car in this most ridiculous way I've ever heard of. There is a bit of her that looks almost ashamed of herself. Like she seems to know that this isn't really how she should be doing this. But, you know, she's been working with this guy and this is how he does it. And she just kind of does what he tells her. So then Frank does a pretty smart thing and he like hits the brakes, reverses and goes down this like side road, which buys him a little bit of time in getting away from the van because they are pursuing him. But also it is like a side country road that isn't super, like you can't drive quickly down it. And then Frank continues to be like the stupidest thing I ever. Frank just decides to like cower in the bushes rather than try and run. Guys, I cannot emphasize enough how angry I was because this whole thing goes on and there's this amazing moment where Diego like just fucking shoots the hell out of the car. And when he does this and Frank is already out of the car, oh guys, and can I just say, the moment where Diego lifts his hand, he like does that thing as they're walking where he lifts his hand and then like closes it to signal stop. But there's literally only the three of them. And then he immediately follows it up by saying, "You okay, Pumpkin?" to Nadia. There's no reason to use this kind of signaling if you're then just going to speak out loud immediately. What do you do? What? He's just such a fucking poser. I hate him so much. Okay, so... But when Frank, like, it turns out that he's off to the side and he's on the phone and he's like talking to Eve because she's like, "Where are you?" He says, "They've got guns. I'm hiding." She gives him instructions on where to flee to and he watches everything going down in front of him. And then the camera pulls away from Frank and we see all the drama unfold. And then the camera goes back to Frank and he is still there behind the bushes. Guys, I started yelling. I was just like, while the two of them were hashing it out, or three of them were hashing it out, I fully thought Frank was taking this opportunity of them all being distracted to run away. Nope. He is just fucking staying there like a goddamn imbecile. letting them have their like infighting and not taking advantage of this at all. Dude, you could not possibly have asked for a better moment to get away. This is the sort of thing that people try and orchestrate in order, like this infighting amongst assassins is like best case scenario for the target. What are you doing? Oh my God, Frank, you are so bad at this. Ugh. So yeah, we'll get to Frank running away. I only have 4 minutes left, but I love Villanelle just getting up in Diego's face, being like, oh yeah, you totally shot Frank in the head. And she seems to like know that he is just full of shit. And then he lifts his gun. Villanelle lifts her gun in response. Then Nadia lifts her gun also. And he realizes, he says, she's the axe? And I'm like, dude, how? Literally everybody watching this has figured this out. I cannot believe how bad you are at this. Again, you are just so stupid. You are just so... Oh, that is so, so, so bad. I hate him. I just hate him so much. Kai says, I thought they faked that fight to lure Frank out. I do not think so, Kai. I think you are giving Diego a lot of credit. But yeah, why is she even here? I was sent to get Nadia. Nadia sort of blinks at that and she says, for what? And Villanelle says, you gave me my way out of here. Now I'm giving you your way out of that. You are not a pumpkin. You are beautiful. And at this point, Nadia says, let me. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And Diego the dum-dum thinks Nadia is talking about shooting Villanelle, while all of us are sitting here like, she means your ass, you fucking dope. And sure enough, she immediately turns and pulls the trigger on him. And it is just the most satisfying thing in the entire world, to be perfectly honest. I loved it the most. So then we have this awful thing where Villanelle is speaking to her. She gets in the car and she tells her out the window, I know it is going to be hard for you to trust me, and that I have done a lot to damage that between the two of us. But I promise that I am going to do everything I can to earn your trust again. And then tells her, put that kite in the back. We can use it on the weekend. And you see Nadia really genuinely looking like there's a glow. She's so happy. She buys this 100%. And to sort of clinch it, at this point, Villanelle speaks Russian, which she hasn't spoken, this is a whole thing for her. So this is her pulling out the big gun, so to speak, to try and convince this girl that she means it. And Nadia goes to put the kite in the back, and Villanelle backs the van over her and puts it in drive and drives it over her, and then puts it in reverse and backs over her again. This was hard to watch, guys. Like, this poor girl. I can't. I knew it was coming I knew that Villanelle was faking this, because now I've gotten the rhythm of her as a character, and I'm realizing that anytime she seems to be displaying genuine emotion, except in the case of like with Eve, that it's all a fake. Like, she is just a very good performer, and that's part of what she does. So I knew, but I didn't think she would do it right here, right away. I thought she was going to continue to use this girl for some other means, some other purpose, that she had like a grander plan. She could have just killed the girl. She could have just done it and been done. But that wasn't enough. She wanted to prove to herself that she could make this girl who hates her guts trust her again. It was all just a game to see how much she could successfully manipulate her. If I can make the person that hates me most in the world, that was just a few hours ago attempting to strangle me to death, if I can make them believe in me and even love me again, then I'm pretty much the best. I am so good at this. So let me see if I can do it. And she does it. And then she's like, all right, well, I managed to do it. Done. And then she just like crosses that off her list. That is just, wow. I love this show. It's so good and it's so sad. And at this point, she fucking sees Frank stand up and she realizes that he was lying, that Diego was lying about having killed Frank. So now she has to get this rifle out and try and get Frank as he's running off into the fucking brush. Like, oh, Frank, you goober. And what follows is this amazing chase where he is like running over the hillside and Eve is trying to find a place that she can like meet up with him. And they get to this like, this gate that goes from the fields onto the road, and she's trying to open it and she can't open it in time. Like, it's just a series of like, you know, just small obstacles that are enough to just make you like lose it. And he manages to actually get over the gate, which I kind of wasn't sure he'd managed to do while she's shooting at it. Cause like, I don't know that I could succeed, and I'm younger than this guy, and you know, just yikes. And just as they get him into the car and Eve has managed to get into the driver's seat and is beginning to pull away, she looks up and sees Villanelle's face coming up over the crest of the hill and realizes like, this is the one that I have been looking for. And Villanelle raises her gun and we hear a shot and there's a flash from the muzzle. And Eve is just transfixed. She hasn't pressed on the gas. And that is the end of the episode. Which, guys, I'm just so angry. I'm just so angry that's where it ended. I am so excited. I'm going to watch the next one right away. I am very, very interested to see where this is going. This show is just so full of surprises, just constantly. And I am here for it. I've said before that at this point, covering as many things as I do, I put something being able to surprise me near the top of the list of stuff that impresses me now, you know, because there are so many tropes that I have gotten used to the point that I will expect it without even realizing that I have that expectation. So when something successfully pulls one out that I never saw coming, it's just so delightful. So yeah, thank you very much to Melanie for commissioning this one, or for sponsoring it, I should say. And the next one will be on January 10th. So any of you who want to come to that, January 10th at 12:30 Central Time. So Kai says, what do you think will happen with Frank after this? I don't know. I want Eve to beat the actual shit out of him, because he is responsible for Bill's death as far as I'm concerned. And I'm sure as far as she's concerned. I don't know, though, because I feel like they just have to start grilling him on everything he knows. And I imagine he doesn't know that much, because that's not the purpose of him. He is not here to know things. He is there to tell things. So I bet he's not much help. So I assume in the end, they kill him. Somebody has to just take this guy out of play. I don't know. Or they could use him as bait to try and like get Villanelle out into the open. Maybe. I don't know. All right. I am going to have to wrap this one up, you guys. Thank you very much for listening. And I will be seeing you on the 10th with a new episode. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.